Hi everyone. So in this tutorial, I want to talk about the Android components, the Android user interface components actually. So look at this palette section here. When you create a new Android Studio project, you are going to actually see this palette section here. So in order to actually open the activity underline main.xml here, you just need to actually open the res folder, and then you have this layout folder, right? And if you actually have chosen basic activity as the template, you are going to see two files, activity underline main.xml and content underline main.xml. So when you use actually basic activity, you cannot interact with the activity underline main.xml. You can only, for example, change the color of the app bar layout, floating action button here. For example, I can select it and then delete it. Let me actually double click on this activity underline main.xml. I can select this floating action button and then I can press on delete key on my keyboard. Or for example, I can actually change the settings of this app bar layout here, right? For example, you can see the background color, the pop-up theme, the min height, elevation. So I'll talk more about this later. For now, we want to interact with the user interface. So for example, here, just close this activity underline main.xml by just clicking on this little X here and double click on this content underline main.xml. And now let's actually double click on this tab in order to make this area wider. So here we have this palette section, and if you actually select this handler, you can actually make this actually a little bit bigger or smaller, right? So here we have all. Here all means that all the user interface components that we can actually use here. If you select widgets, you can only see widgets here. For example, text view, button, toggle button, checkbox, radio button. We are going to actually use all of these inside our application. Later inside the applications that we are going to use throughout this course. We have progress bar, horizontal, seek bar, quick contact badge, rating bar, switch, space. We have text. If you select text, we have plain text. So these are actually so-called edit texts. We have a plain text, we have a password, or an edit text that actually accepts a password. If I select it and drag it here, you can see that this is actually an edit text that can actually accept a password as an input. So when you select this edit text, you are going to see the properties here on the right hand side of the Android Studio. So for example, I can change the layout width, layout height, input type. You can see that the input type is text password because I obviously selected this password edit text here. I can actually provide a hint here, for example, hint ... right? Or I can, for example, specify the style. So notice that when you provide a hint, when the user actually starts typing something here inside this edit text, this hint is going to be actually disappeared. So that's why it is called a hint. We can actually specify the text. You can actually provide a text for this edit text. And if you want to, you can see all the properties of this component. So if I click on this view all properties, it's going to actually show us all the properties of this component. And in order to search for a specific property, I can select one of these properties and I can search for my specific, for example, property. I can search for layout underline, for example, gravity. So layout underline gravity. And now let's actually see. So as you can see, we have not layout gravity here, right? So I can search for example, layout. I can find the layout width, layout height, layout margin, layout editor, and layout actually editor and other options. So let me actually make this actually bigger so that we can see these values. And let me tell you that why we don't have the layout gravity, because here we are inside a constraint layout, right? So I actually created a tutorial about constraint layout. So you can actually see that and then learn about constraint layout. But if you have actually a linear layout, you are going to see the layout gravity property here. So we have the password edit text, we have email, we have phone, postal address, multi-line text, time, date, number signed, number decimal. So what is number signed? Number signed means that we can actually have, for example, negative numbers and positive numbers, right? Those are signed numbers. But when you have unsigned numbers, that means that you can only have positive numbers. So we have decimal numbers. For example, an edit text can actually accept decimal numbers. We have autocomplete text view. We are going to use this component in later applications of this course. We have multi-autocomplete text view. So if you select layouts, you can see all the layouts here. For example, constraint layout, which is actually a new feature in Android. We have grid layout. We have frame layout, linear layout, relative layout, table layout, table row, and we have fragment here. If I select containers, you can see all the containers here: radio group, list view, grid view, expandable list view, scroll view. Actually, this is a vertical scroll view, and we have this one, horizontal scroll view, tab host, web view, search view. So the reason between these two scroll views is that this one is actually a vertical scroll view. So if I actually drag it and put it here, this is a scroll view, right? But with a difference, and that difference is that if you actually look at the orientation attribute of this scroll view, so let's select this scroll view and let's search for orientation. And now you can see that we have this orientation property. So now if I select it, if I click on this drop down here, you can see that we have two attributes here, two values, horizontal, vertical. If I select vertical, now you can see that we have actually a vertical scroll view. Items are going to be placed below each other. If you select horizontal, we are going to have a horizontal scroll view, and items are going to be placed actually beside each other. We have tab host. We are going to use this one in later applications of this course. Web view, we are going to also use web view. Search view. We have images. You can see image button, image view, video view. Okay, we are going to use all these components inside our course. We have date, time picker, date picker, calendar view, chronometer, text clock. We have transitions here. View switcher, we are going to use actually these components throughout our application. We are going to use view switcher, view flipper, view animator, text switcher, image switcher, adapter view flipper, stack view. We have advanced here. We have actually Google, add view, map view, design. We have coordinator layout, app bar layout, tab item, floating action button, text input layout. And we have app compat, which we can actually use card view, grid layout, recycler view here, and toolbar. So I'll talk all about these components later in this course, don't worry. Here I just wanted to actually introduce you with these components, with the properties, how you can actually change these properties in Android. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have any questions about these concepts that I taught you in this lesson, please post a discussion in the course, and then I'll do my best to answer all of your questions. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.